The year is 1942, and Pearl Harbor is still pretty fresh in most people's minds, especially those in California. People were still pretty scared of what had been going on around them and were not happy they were in a war. And to compound on that, there had been a strike on an oil field less than an hour away from the city of Los Angeles. Many feared that Los Angeles would be the subject of another attack. On the day of February 24th, the United States Naval Intelligence Office released a report that said that an attack on the U.S. mainland, focused in Los Angeles, California, was likely in the next 10 hours. But what did happen was that night at 7:18 p.m., an alert was issued for all soldiers to stand and be ready for a Japanese attack. All was quiet until 2:25 the next morning, when alarms rang out and gunshots started as multiple spotlights grazed the sky looking for enemy planes. A blackout was ordered for Los Angeles and all the lights were shut off except for giant spotlights in the sky. U.S. Army soldiers shot 50 caliber rounds and 12.8-pound artillery shells into the sky until the alarm stopped 1 hour later. Most of the soldiers reported seeing planes in the sky, but civilians reported balloons in the sky, some saying there was one moving extremely fast to others saying there was 200, all moving at 200 miles an hour. Some people even reported seeing a, quote, alien spacecraft in the sky. After the dust settled from the battle, 5 buildings were damaged and 5 civilians had died, 2 from car crashes and 3 from heart attacks caused by the stressfulness of the event, as most people in Los Angeles weren't really used to this kind of thing. And you might be thinking to yourself, how come I've never heard of this? And the answer is because the US Army shot 12,000 rounds of ammunition at nothing. A few hours after the attack, Secretary of the Army Henry Knox held a press conference about the event. He blamed it on, quote, war nerves, and that the soldiers were just panicking and had been cooped up for so long that they thought they saw something and shot at it after they heard an alarm. A few hours after that, he sent a report to that at the time President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, saying, and I quote, it seems reasonable to conclude that any unidentified airplanes were involved. They may have been from commercial sources, operated by enemy agents for the purpose of spreading alarm, or disclosing the location of anti-aircraft positions and slowing the production through blackout. Such conclusion is supported by varying speed of operation and the fact that no bombs were dropped. The message received a pretty funny response from the at the time President FDR, saying, quote, who is responsible for the air system in the United States? Can anyone other than an authorized official order the air alarm? It seems to me that all consent in reference to air alarms should be made exclusively by appropriate officials. It seems to me that all consent in reference to air alarms should be made exclusively by the appropriate officials of the department responsible. I am writing this note in light of the 2 alarms last night. Very sincerely yours, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And after this, nothing much really became of the event. There were no follow-up attacks. No more ever came. The soldiers never received any punishment of any kind other than a small slap on the wrist for all the wasted ammo. And to this day, the Japanese claim that they never sent an attack, and they really don't have much reason to lie. The main theory for what happened today is that a weather balloon was flying over LA and would sounded the initial alarm. After that, soldiers started firing on it and seeing the own smoke from their artillery as more planes. The civilian reports were all likely just caused by people panicking. There was even a report of a plane going down on Hollywood Avenue in the middle of the road. One funny theory that sticks out is that it was actually UFOs. Most of that comes from this image right here, and this little blob here in the middle, which is really a photo artifact from the type of photo restoration they used for magazines at the time, looking like a UFO. In 2010, the show Fact or Fake attempted to recreate the situation by going to the desert with 50 cal rounds and a rocket launcher to try and recreate the photo. They could not recreate the photo because you can't recreate it if it was made in post-production. Despite all of this, the attack really isn't all that well known today, mostly not because of the Army covering it up, but because it's not really that important in the grand scheme of the war. 5 people died, yes, but their deaths didn't affect the outcome of the war in any way, and it wasn't newsworthy enough with all of the invasions going on at the time. In all, it's a pretty silly event outside of 5 people dying, and is just a footnote in World War II. In all, it's not that well known today, despite the fact that it should be, mostly so things like this never happen again, but they probably won't due to things like radar being around now, so that we won't be shooting into an empty sky. Thank you for sticking around to watch all of this, and maybe I'll make another one at some point.